evening, and welcome back to Mindscape Sleep Stories. It's wonderful to have you here again. This is the place where your day gently dissolves, where your mind softens, and where long, calm stories carry you into deep and peaceful rest. Tonight, we're taking a slow, unhurried journey, not into myths or legends, but into something even older and far more human. Tonight, we will drift together through the quiet and astonishing tale of the entire story of human civilization. Wherever you are listening from, your bedroom, your living room, or somewhere far away, take this moment to settle in. Let your body grow heavy. Let your breath soften. Let the world outside grow dim and gentle. And when you're ready, we'll begin. Before cities, before calendars, before anyone carved symbols into stone, the earth was already ancient. Forests rose and fell with the rhythm of the seasons. Oceans breathed in long tides. Clouds wandered like slow travelers across wide, endless skies. The world was full of life, animals roaming through plains, birds carving paths through blue air, rivers cutting deep into the soil. Yet in all that vastness, only one small species told stories around firelight: early humans. They moved in small groups, bound together by family, support, and the simple instinct to stay warm, fed, and safe. Their tools were humble stones, shaped by patient hands. Their shelters, branches, hides, and whatever the land offered were built to last only a few nights. Still, these people watched the world closely. They learned the ways of animals they hunted and animals they avoided. They knew the taste of safe berries and the danger of bitter ones. They knew which winds signaled storms and which meant clear days ahead. Night after night, under stars without names, they told stories. Not written words, but memories passed gently from one voice to another. Stories of hunts, of seasons, of ancestors, of spirits in rivers and trees. These stories connected the group, woven threads of meaning in a world that could be harsh and unpredictable. But even in this ancient stillness, something quiet and extraordinary was taking shape. Curiosity, observation, ingenuity, small sparks that would one day ignite civilizations. If you're still awake, let your breath fall into a soft, slow pattern as steady as the ancient world we're leaving behind. Somewhere in this early world, people began to notice patterns, subtle ones, so quiet they almost whispered. Certain seeds grew in the same place year after year. Plants rose from the ground after the rains as though waking from sleep. Animals migrated in loops and cycles. The moon waxed and waned in a rhythm the sky never broke. And slowly, carefully, people began to interact with these patterns. They realized that seeds hidden in the soil could grow into food more reliably than waiting for wild plants to appear. They realized that tending small groups of animals offered more safety than chasing herds across continents. They realized that building slightly sturdier shelters made returning easier and made wandering a little less necessary. So they stayed, first for a season, then for a year, then for many. They discovered that the earth itself could be persuaded to provide more. The earliest gardens were not rows of crops, but clusters of familiar plants growing near campsites. Seeds accidentally dropped, then intentionally placed. Agriculture was not invented in a single moment. It emerged through observation and patience over thousands of years. And with farming came time. Time to experiment, time to craft tools, time to share stories more elaborate than tales of the hunt, time to dream. People created baskets to gather grain, grinding stones to turn seeds into flour, pottery to store food for winter, and shelters that lasted longer and longer with each generation. Life was still simple, but it was expanding, like the first rays of dawn stretching across a sleeping horizon. Imagine a cluster of homes, mud brick walls warming under sunrise, straw roofs glowing gold, pounded earth pathways leading from door to door. Smoke drifts gently from hearths as morning meals cook. A dog stretches in the doorway. A potter kneads clay at the village edge. Children chase one another around a drying rack of freshly washed hides. This was the first village, a place built not for one night, but for generations. People stored grain, kept goats and sheep, and shaped their homes with care and intention. Life grew more complex, but also more connected. Food was shared. Tools were exchanged. Stories were performed at night with rhythm and music made from early drums and hollow reeds. Elders, once simply survivors of chance, became keepers of knowledge, the living library of the village. And young children no longer learned only from the land, but from the wisdom of many voices. Crafts flourished, beadwork, woven mats, stone tools refined in ways that required patience and practice. For the first time, people belonged to places, and the land, through years of tending, belonged to them too. Villages became communities woven by cooperation, trust, and the steady rhythm of days and seasons. If you're drifting a bit, you can relax. The story will gently carry you onward. Civilization, as we know it, sprang from water. The Nile flooding each year with predictable generosity. The Tigris and Euphrates fertilizing the cradle of Mesopotamia. The Indus flowing fast and full through ancient plains. The Yellow River, rich with life-giving silt, cradling the early people of China. Rivers became calendars, they became roads, they became the heartbeat of early cities. Along their banks, people planted in rich soil left behind by floods. They built irrigation systems that turned dry ground green, a quiet marvel of engineering. With water came abundance, with abundance came population, and with population came specialization. Not everyone needed to farm. Some became potters, some weavers, some healers, some builders, some spiritual leaders who contemplated the mysteries of nature and the power of the unseen. Markets grew, walls rose, tools advanced, governance slowly emerged from councils, elders, or the strongest among them. These river communities were not just villages. They were the first cities, living organisms full of energy, ingenuity, and growing ambition. Rivers shaped landscapes, but more than that, they shaped the human mind. They taught us to predict, to plan, to build, to dream. Civilization requires memory stronger than any spoken story. So people turned to clay, bone, and stone. The first writing was not poetry or myth. It was practical, necessary, simple. A record of grain, a tally of livestock, a promise kept or owed, marks pressed by reeds into fresh clay. Yet these marks became doors to possibility. Writing allowed people to organize, to govern, to pass knowledge to those not yet born. It allowed trade across vast distances. It allowed agreements between strangers. It allowed leaders to guide cities larger than anyone could remember without help. And once the world began to write, it never stopped. Stories emerged. Histories emerged. Laws emerged, and humans gained a new kind of permanence. Take a slow breath here. Let the stillness settle in. Civilizations bloomed like constellations across the ancient world. Mesopotamia, where priests mapped stars and kings built towering ziggurats to bridge heaven and earth. Egypt, where the Nile guided each rhythm of life and pharaohs were entombed in pyramids aligned with the cosmos. The Indus Valley, with its carefully planned cities, straight streets, bathing complexes, and early sanitation systems ahead of their time. China, where dynasties rose and flourished, weaving together philosophies of harmony, duty, balance, and the cycles of nature. Across oceans, the ancestors of the Maya, Olmec, and Andean cultures observed the heavens with astonishing precision, building monuments aligned to solstices and stars. Everywhere, people shaped the world with deliberate hands. They built temples, markets, observatories, palaces, and ceremonial centers. They carved symbols into stone. They painted stories onto pottery. They developed mathematics, music, medicine, astronomy, and complex spiritual traditions. These cultures differed in language, belief, and geography. Yet they shared one truth. Humanity had moved from merely surviving to creating. With civilization came ambition, and so the age of empires began. Some grew slowly from strong city-states, others spread rapidly through conquest or diplomacy. Empires built roads that connected continents. They crafted legal systems that shaped justice. They assembled armies that protected or dominated the lands they held. But empires also built philosophy, mathematics, medicine, literature, art, and architecture that endured long after their fall. The Persians created efficient networks of communication. The Greeks explored democracy, logic, and drama. The Romans built aqueducts, bridges, and global trade routes. In Asia, the Maurya and Gupta empires advanced mathematics and surgery. Chinese dynasties perfected metalwork, astronomy, and papermaking. In Africa, the kingdom of Kush, Aksum, and later Mali flourished with trade, knowledge, and cultural brilliance. Empires were complex, full of brilliance and conflict, progress and tragedy. But they connected people in unprecedented ways. For the first time, the world began to feel interwoven. As people learned more about the world, they also wondered about what lies beyond it. Belief systems emerged, rooted in ritual, community, reflection, and hope. Temples rose on mountain peaks. Shrines stood beside rivers. Sacred texts were copied by hand with devotion and care. Pilgrims walked for weeks to seek guidance, wisdom, or peace. Faith shaped art, music, architecture, laws, morals, and the rhythms of daily life. It offered comfort in the face of uncertainty. It offered connection to ancestors. It offered meaning in a world full of mystery. Even if you're drifting now, let these thoughts float gently through your mind. Empires collapsed, new ones rose, and slowly the world transitioned into new ages. The Renaissance rekindled creativity. Artists, scientists, and thinkers pushing boundaries of knowledge. The Enlightenment expanded reason, exploring rights, governments, and philosophy. Explorers crossed oceans, traders mapped routes, and scientists questioned everything once assumed. Then came the Industrial Revolution. Machines, electricity, transportation, factories, modern medicine. Civilization accelerated faster than ever before. And in just a blink of time, we entered the digital age. A world connected not by rivers or roads, but by light, data, and instant communication. Knowledge now moves at the speed of thought, and yet, within you, is the quiet memory of early ancestors who once gathered around firelight on silent plains. You are part of an unbroken chain stretching back hundreds of thousands of years. And tonight, you can rest in that. As you lie here, breathing softly, let the story settle around you like warm evening air. Civilization will continue. Slowly, gracefully. But for now, you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to solve anything. You are allowed to rest, to drift, to dissolve into sleep. The story of humanity is vast and beautiful. But tonight, your only task is to let your mind grow quiet. Breathe, release, and allow yourself to drift into peaceful, restorative, healing sleep.